Hi guys. How we doing? Ginger, Joan, and Jane. You're not allowed to speak to me through this entire live. Oh my goodness, you guys, I got my laugh box turned over and I've had to compose myself so that I can do a Facebook Live. Some of you are just hilarious. Oh my gosh, there's Ginger. No talking, Ginger, no talking. Oh man. You guys, how has your week been? Mine has been really, really good. I feel like I've gotten a lot of things accomplished this week. See now, Ginger. Oh my goodness. Anyway, I got a lot of things accomplished this week and I'm feeling really good about next week because there are some new bead releases coming out next week that you guys are going to love. I am so excited. I wish that I could tell you more or could show you a little teaser, but I cannot. There's and now Joan is here. Oh my goodness, you guys. So all I can say is that next week is going to be a very exciting week as far as beads are concerned. If you are a fan of Jessie James Beads, which I obviously am, and you guys, it's my favorite time of year. So I'm giving you some little hints, right? Jessie James Beads, it's my favorite time of year. This is not necessarily making up for the fact that I'm not having a haunt this year, but it is definitely making things a lot better, right? So there is some beady goodness to come out of a season that is just definitely a weird one this year. So anyway, just stay posted for that, you guys. It's going to be exciting, to say the least. Lots of new things coming out next week. And there will not be a Maker Mystery series this Saturday, but there will be next weekend. So the Maker Mystery series, you guys, was very difficult to edit. Not gonna lie, having to do a voiceover and then do that kind of editing is a huge challenge for me. So if you know anybody out there who might want to like swap beads for video editing, let me know. Not really though, but because of that, I'm going to do every other weekend with the Maker Mystery series. So don't be sad that there's not one this week. I originally had planned on doing them every other week anyways. So just know that there will not be one this weekend, but there will be one the following weekend. Oh gosh. So what else? What else shall I tell you guys? Let's see. I feel like there was something very important that I needed to tell you. Oh, there are actually a couple of things I needed to tell you. So this afternoon is going to be, I don't know if you guys watch me over on Jewel Loom with Juliana, but we didn't have a Facebook Live this past Wednesday. Things were just really, really busy with her. And I had some other things going on as well. So that didn't happen. That's going to happen this afternoon. And actually, it's going to be our Saturday project instead of our regular Wednesday project. I know that's a little confusing, but definitely come back and check us out on Jewel Loom at 4 p.m. Eastern time. And we will be doing a project. We're going to finish up. We were actually working on a project with our small goddess looms. So we will be finishing up that project and showing you guys how to finish that off, take it off of the loom, and all of the little things that you need to know to get that finished and squared away. So yeah, I'll post a link for that so that you won't miss it. Just set your reminders just in case. And let's see, what else? I have a 3 o'clock meeting, you guys. I've got a 3 o'clock meeting with Miss Sarah James and with the Beadalon crew, and we are working out the details of our Destination North Pole classes that are going to be taking place in December. So if you've not signed up for that, definitely do that. We're kind of crossing the T's and dotting the I's at this point, and getting all of the projects squared away. It's going to be so much fun. If you are interested in learning more about that, you just head on over to the Jessie James Beads website. Speaking of Jessie James Beads website, our new Jessie James Beads team member, Miss Kelly, will be here. I don't know if she's here yet or not, but she will be here dropping links and saying hello on the Jessie James Beads little icon. So if you see her, that's Kelly. It's not Sarah, but please say hello to her and welcome her. She is a brand new team member and we are really, really happy to have her. I know she's going to be an excellent friend to all of us. So, hi, Allison. Hi, Kathy. I haven't taken time, you guys, to say hi to anybody. I did kind of mention Ginger and Joan, who are not allowed to speak to me for the remainder of the Facebook Live. There's Miss Wanda, Suzanne. It's so good to see you guys. Steph, Randy. Hi, guys. So how has everybody's week been so far? I know I asked that already, but it was right at the beginning. There were only like maybe 4 of you here. So I definitely want to just touch base and say the hellos again. And welcome to all of you who are new, who may just be joining me for the first time. Welcome to Sarah Ellis Designs. Things get really weird here, and sometimes I eat snacks. So you never know what you're going to see. But for today, we actually are not going to be eating snacks. Today we are creating some jewelry, and this is a project that was requested. I've actually had a couple of requests for this kind of design, and you guys know I always ask for things for you to send me project ideas, send them to me via message. This is one that I've had several messages over. And I'm happy to show this to you because I'm using some Czech Glass Beads for this project, and I just wanted to mention just really quickly that Czech Glass is actually buy 3 get 1 free over on the Jessie James Beads website. So if you like the Czech Glass that I'm using in today's project, you can run over to the Jessie James Beads website and grab some and use the code SPARKLECZECH. There are no spaces in that. That's all one word. And you can get buy 3 get 1 free, which is a really cool deal because stocking up on Czech Glass, like, I don't know about you guys, but Czech Glass is kind of the backbone of my collection of beady goodness. So there is that. For the teaser picture, I used some clear with the AB finish for the picture, but today I'm actually using some sapphire blue. They are 8 millimeters. And I do want to mention that this project, I'm actually doing this with wire because you guys know wire is like my medium of choice. However, the steps for this can be accomplished the exact same way. There is no change whatsoever if you want to do this with cording. I recommend using rat tail or Chinese cording. You do want something that is a little bit thick for this, at least when it comes to cord, so that it shows up really nicely between the beads and it creates some structure. Because if you use something really thin, your bracelet is a little bit on the wobbly side and it just doesn't wear very well. So I definitely recommend using something that's a little bit thicker. You probably want to go with like something that is 1 millimeter in diameter or a little bit bigger. Just kind of depends on the look that you're going for. But again, the steps are exactly the same regardless of whether you are using cord or you are using wire. I am going to use the tying station to secure my work for today. Wanda says she's got her iced coffee and she's ready to learn. Wanda, please bring me an iced coffee. That's the high maintenance me coming out. Please bring me an iced coffee, and while you're here. Anyway, so I'm going to use the tying station for this, but I do want to tell you that you can use a macrame board for this. It actually works really well, just as well as the tying station. The only difference is, of course, with the tying station, you can get your hands underneath there, so you can get your fingers nice up and underneath your work. Whereas with the macrame board, what you would do is you would just secure your ends in the little slots, the little grooves that are cut in all the sides. And you can't really get underneath there with your fingers, but it does work. So don't feel like if you don't have a tying station, you cannot accomplish this project, because you absolutely can. Okay, so what are you going to need? You need 2 pieces of 20 gauge wire. I'm using German style wire. That's the hard tempered stuff in a silver color. You need about 16 inches of those, depending on how large you want your bracelet to be, but you really don't need any more than that. You're also going to need a piece of artistic wire. That is the dead soft wire. Because we are actually going to be doing some square knots with that wire, it's a little bit more difficult to do the knotting with the German style wire. Can be done. It's just a little bit more fickle and fussy, and if you're a beginner, I definitely don't recommend it. So definitely grab some artistic wire. I've got a gold piece of artistic wire for mine, so I'm kind of mixing my metals together here, but it is up to you, obviously. And cut yourself a ton of this. I don't have an actual measurement for this. I've probably got about 36 inches, probably more than that, which is way more than you're going to need for this. But because I don't have an actual measurement, you know how I am, I always have way too much. So Give yourself at least 24 and cross your fingers. This is a project where you can't add on, right? You can't add on to this. So you definitely want to have more than you need. All right, so it looks like we've got a packed house. Let's get down to it. Let's get started with this project. You guys are going to be amazed. Those of you who do not know how to do this, you're going to be like, whoa, I had no idea it was this easy. I promise you. So let's get to it, shall we? Joan says we're not allowed to talk to Sarah while she's doing the show. You are not. You are not allowed to speak, because I'll get started giggling again and it will just not be good. I'm just kidding, you guys. You can talk to me if you want to. It's not a Facebook Live without Joan, Ginger, and Jane. So okay, so the tying station, you guys, this is a Beadalon product. It's one of my top favorite tools that is available. I love it because it has this handy ruler on the side so that you can do your measuring while you are working. The top here is just 2 acrylic plates. You've got a wing nut and a washer. Don't lose that washer, because if you tighten down your wing nut without the washer, you will crack the acrylic plate. So what we're going to do is we are just going to take our 2 pieces of our 20 gauge wire here. Okay, this is not the artistic wire, this is the German style. I want the 2 pieces, and I want to lay those down across that acrylic plate, running side by side. Don't have them crisscrossed, okay? And then you want to put the acrylic plate down on top. And if you've got some coming out the top, that's totally fine, but you want to try to keep them as evenly spaced as possible. You don't want one to be shorter than the other, okay? And then I'm going to pop this down. So somebody asked if there was a list of the things that I am using, and actually there is. I did not, I don't think, put in the event that the materials list that you need for this, but it is over on the Beadalon, I'm sorry, not Beadalon, the Jessie James Beads blog, if you want the materials list. It's really not a lot of things. I can tell you if you want to just write it down real quick. So you just need 2 pieces of 16-inch 20 gauge German style wire. That's what I'm using for the core here. And it's really difficult, you guys, not gonna lie, to attach your wire to your tying station. It doesn't work the same way that cording does. So you have to be really patient with that. I'm just gonna take the 2 ends down here on the other end of the tying station and slip those underneath the acrylic plates that are down here on this end and tighten it down. And then you're also going to need 24 to 36 inches. I've got 36 inches because I don't know exactly for sure how many. Oh gosh, you guys, I forgot to add the beads. I'll do that in just a second. So you're going to need 24 to 36 inches of artistic wire, and you're going to need about 24 8mm Czech Glass beads. Okay, and then just your tools. That's pretty much the extent of it. Doesn't take a lot of wire as far as different parts and pieces, right? Karen says painter's tape. Yeah, painter's tape will absolutely keep your wire in place. However, I attached my wire. I completely forgot to add my beads, so I am going to undo the wire down here on this end. So as far as the beads are concerned, we're using the Czech Glass beads. I'm using 8mm Czech Glass beads. You can use whichever size or shape that you want. This project looks much better if you use a round type of bead, but it is very interesting if you do this with squares, just so you know. But the round beads or oval shaped beads are probably the most popular for this kind of project. And you can actually accomplish this exact same project with seed beads as well, just on a smaller scale, right? Okay, Sharon says, what gauge artistic wire? You're going to need 20 gauge artistic wire, and I'm also using 20 gauge on the German style wire as well. You just want something to be a little thick. It's got to have a good, you know, it's got to be nice and wide, otherwise you don't see it. And really the important part of this design is seeing. You guys, I'm dropping my beads on evenly on either one of these wires here, but you want to be able to see the wire that goes through there. Oh my goodness, I should have grabbed some painter's tape. You're so right. Definitely a challenge. So let me tell you, the first little bit of this project is, how should I put this? It's not difficult. It's just like a lot of other things where the first few steps, this guy is just not cooperating at all. The first few steps are going to feel a little wonky. It's going to look like a hot mess, but you have to trust the process with this, okay? I promise you that if you just give yourself a little bit of grace and go slow, you will you'll have this down easy peasy, no problems. So again, your 2 pieces, you want to load these up with an even amount of beads. So I've got 24 beads. I'm doing 12 beads on each side. If you need to make your bracelet a little bit larger, you could add a couple more beads. However, I feel like it's probably better to increase the length of your bracelet with the amount of knotting that you do and not necessarily with the beads, because this is kind of a difficult one to kind of guess as to how long it's going to be based on the beads. So once you get your beads on there, you're kind of stuck with however many you've got. You can't really take it back, right? So I would adjust the length as far as you know, knotting is concerned, or even with jump rings at the end. Okay. All right. So again, having a difficult time getting this wire attached, but we will get it. There we go. All right. Hi, Karen. You're not late. We're just getting started. We were just kind of chit-chatting a little bit and talking about supplies and all of that. All right. This wire just does not want to stay down here. Okay, we're just going to do the best that we can with this. Okay, so you guys, I'm telling you, this is super easy peasy. You are going to be amazed. So all of the beads, I'm just going to slide these down so that I have this big open space here to work with, okay? Because this is where we're going to start. Let me show you the bracelet. It starts out with some square knots. Excuse me. Julie, could you use one piece of wire and bend in the middle? Not as far as I know. I really don't think, I guess that you probably could. I feel like it would probably be more trouble than it's worth though. You definitely can try it and let me know. I just feel like it's probably not going to go as smoothly as this is going to go. So we're going to start with some square knots with our artistic wire. That's why I chose the artistic wire, because it is a dead soft wire. It's a lot easier to create a square knot with. Some of you may have never made a knot with a hard wire. The only thing you've ever knotted with is cording, so this may be new for you. It works exactly the same way. It just takes a little bit more patience, okay? Sarah's one of those cool teachers that doesn't take attendance. That's so funny. You can be late. You can also eat in my class, which I was never able to get away with in school. Okay, so what we're going to do is we're going to take our artistic wire, okay? And I have 10 tons of this artistic wire, and it is difficult to work with such a long length, but like I said, better safe than sorry when it comes to the length of this. So I'm going to slide this underneath the 2 wires that are our core wires here. And I want to find the middle, so I'm just going to bring the 2 ends together, okay? And very carefully find the middle of that wire, and I want that middle to be what's running between or running underneath our our core wires here, okay? Now, we're going to start with doing a square knot. Leslie says, and drink, apparently. Yeah. That's kind of a given. I just kind of assume that by Friday, everybody's probably having a drink when it's time for Facebook Live. Okay. Excuse me. All right, so we're going to start our square knot. Okay, and those of you who know a square knot, this is going to be easy. For those of you who do not know a square knot, I'm going to walk you through this. We're going to do about 5, okay? The first one is always the trickiest because it doesn't really, you're not knotting up against another knot, so it looks kind of funny. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the right hand cord and I'm creating a P shape with it, okay? And the wire that is running this direction to create that P shape, that's going over the top of our core wires here, okay? Holding on to that. Now I'm going to take the left-handed wire and I need to go underneath. It's going to cross over the top of the wire that's coming out this way, right? It's going to go underneath the core wires, and then I need to pull it up through the P shape that we made over here on the right-handed side, okay? And then you just want to pull, and it feels a lot different than using cord. Not gonna lie, because it's wire, so it definitely, you know, you got to kind of use your strength on this one, okay? And then I like to straighten mine out as I go. Just use your fingers to warm up the surface of that wire. It's going to make it a little bit easier for you to work with, okay? So the square knot happens in 2 steps. That is step 1, where we made our P shape on the right-handed side. To finish a square knot, you have to do a P shape on the left-handed side. So we're going to do step number 2, okay? And we're going to start out excuse me, exactly the same way. We're going to take our left-handed piece of wire and we're going to create a P shape, okay, on the left this time. This wire is running across the top of these 2 core wires, and our right-handed wire, pick it up, it needs to be going over the top of this wire, underneath the core wires, and then up through the P shape, okay? And again, it's a little tricky because it's wire, right? Okay, and then you want to pull. And I'm really pulling. I don't know if you can tell or not, but I'm really using a lot of strength for this, okay? If you are not used to this, I would recommend trying with some 24 gauge wire or 26 gauge wire to make your knots just as a practice before you come to do the actual bracelet, just so that you can kind of get a feel of what it feels like to knot with wire, because it is tricky, okay? It's not hard, it's just tricky, takes a little bit of patience. All right, now that's 1 knot. 2 steps makes 1 knot. We need to do that 3 more times, okay? So we'll have, well, maybe 4 more times. I can't remember how many are on the original. I think I did 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I did 5, so we'll do 5. So we're gonna do 4 more, okay? All right, taking the right-handed side, and something else before I go any further, notice how it still slides. That's okay. You're not gonna be able to get this on there so tight that it's not gonna slide. But when we start adding the beads, that's gonna keep this in place. So don't worry if it's still sliding around, okay? All right, now, right-handed side, making our P shape across the top of the core wires, left-handed piece, across that piece that's running this direction now, underneath the core wires and up through the P shape, and pull. Pull tight, okay? That was the first step. Second step is the same. Left-handed P shape, it's the same, it's just mirrored, okay? Right-handed goes over the top of that one, underneath and up through. Okay, now if you're having trouble following the knot, definitely Google square knots, because there's some really great images to show you exactly, okay? I know it's kind of tricky. If you've never done a square knot before, you do need to see it 3 or 4 times before you really get the hang of it. So you're definitely not going to hurt my feelings or make me feel like I'm a bad teacher if you have to Google that, okay? All right, now that's 2. Let's do 2 more. I've got 4 stuck in the brain today, so we're just going to stick with 4, I think. All right. All right. So I'm just kind of going through this. Are messy square knots a thing? Sure. Hey, when it comes to wire, messy everything is a thing, okay? Totally acceptable design option. All right, there's 3. I'm going to do 1 more, and then we're going to move our beads into this. Okay. I make the best square knots. I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I always feel like I'm just all thumbs when I'm doing a square knot, and I always worry that I'm not explaining it very well. So I appreciate you saying that for sure, because I do worry. That's why I don't teach a whole lot of knots, even though knotting is one of my very favorite things. I don't teach a lot of them because I feel like they don't translate very well when you're trying to explain it and your hands are in the way. Steph says, how long is the knotting wire again? I've got about 36 inches here. And just like with everything else, that's probably way too much, but okay. Excuse me, you guys, I've got a tickle in my throat today. All right, so we've got our 4 square knots. I'm going to hold this up here a little bit closer so that you can get a look at it. Okay, and if you are curious as to know how to count your square knots, you always want to count on the right-handed side, and you're counting that little belt. Remember our tushy knots with the belts? Our square knots have belts too. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. 4 of those little bumps or 4 of those little belts. That's how we count. That's how we count how many we've got. Okay. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to take the right hand piece of our wire and go underneath our 2 core wires and bring that wire out here to the left, and we want to do the same thing with the right, or I'm sorry, with the left. We want to go underneath and bring it out to the right. So we're just swapping the spots of those wires underneath our core wires, okay, which seems kind of weird, but I promise you it will work better if you do it this way. If you don't, this next part tends to be more of a struggle. Okay, now I'm going to slide my beads up, and what I want with my beads is there's the same amount of beads on either side, right? We've got 12 on either side. However, I want these to be staggered a little bit. So one bead over here on the left-handed side is going to be up further than the next bead, right? They're going to be sitting at this kind of angle. That's what's going to help you. That's what's going to help you get that goddess shape that you guys are so familiar with. Okay. Now, this is where I said at the beginning, it's a little wonky, okay, a little strange. And the first turns, the first little bit of this is going to be, it's not going to look good and you're going to think you're doing it wrong. But I promise you, if you'll stick with it, you're doing it right, okay? So what we want, we're only going to use one piece of wire to start with. We're going to start out with our left-handed side of wire. So just leave the right one out of the way, okay? We want that wire to go underneath our first bead. And like I said, kind of a challenge. It's not, I don't really know how to explain it. It's not running necessarily between the 2 beads and under, but it is sitting underneath that first bead, okay? Which is, I'm just kind of holding it there with my finger, right? I'm going to slide up the next bead over here on this side, okay? Now, I'm going to take this wire, the left-handed wire, only using the left-handed wire, and I'm going to lay it diagonally across the 2 core wires underneath the first 2 beads, okay? So those first 2 beads are sitting up against this wire. Now, I want to very carefully fold that wire. It's not a sharp bend, okay? It's just a kind of a smooth fold. I want to fold that over the edge of this wire over here on the right and bring that wire all the way back around to the underneath. Okay, do you see what I've done? That's all. And that's exactly the entire process, believe it or not, okay? So I'm going to slide up 2 more beads. And this wire is sitting underneath the bead on the left, right? You always want that wire to sit underneath the bead on the left. Then I'm going to fold it over. So now it's over here on the right, running at a diagonal, right? Underneath the 2 beads. I want to fold it again and bring it back out the left. All I'm doing is just kind of folding this left-handed wire around. I'm not making sharp bends. I'm not pinching or anything like that. This is a very kind of fluid kind of bend. It's not a sharp angle by any means. Over the base wires, under the base wires is what Joan said. Is that right? Yeah, so we're under the base wires and we're going to go over and then back under, right? And I'm doing 2 beads at a time. That makes it so much easier than trying to work with it with all of your beads pushed up here. Don't do that. Don't make it harder than it needs to be, okay? Slide 2 beads up at a time. That makes it so much easier. I've got 2 beads The wire is sitting underneath the bead on the left. Okay. Just very carefully. And keep everything together here. This wire keeps popping out of the tying station, so hold on. Okay. Bending the wire over the over the top of the 2 core beads. Okay. And it's at an angle just because that's the way our beads are going. You don't have to work at that angle. You don't have to force that wire to make that kind of angled shape. It's going to naturally do that because our beads are staggered, right? Okay, now we're going to go and fold under, back out to the left, right? Now, one thing I will mention is I do want to keep my beads pushed up. Okay, want to keep those beads pushed up so there's not a whole lot of wiggle room in there. They are not moving, right? They're pretty much in place once I get that wire folded around. I also want to keep the spacing here with my 2 core wires. See how I can see daylight between these 2 core wires? Don't get them pinched up next to each other because then you're going to have kind of these pinched out shapes in your bracelet. So you always want to try to keep that shape, the distance consistent. Your beads are going to help with that, but it is easy when you are bringing this wire over to pull this wire, and that's going to close up that space there. Don't pull these 2 wires together. Don't squeeze them. You need all that open room, okay? So brought the wire across the 2 top, and I'm taking it underneath, just bringing it out to the side. Okay, again, pushing my beads up in place. 2 more beads. Okay, same thing, folding this wire over and then underneath. You guys are so sweet, I'm telling you. All right, now 2 more. So we're just going to keep going, okay? Making sure that got even spacing, keeping those beads locked in place. Yes, Eve, this absolutely is a braid. It's really weird how this comes together. But yeah, it is a braid when it's finished, and you actually can do this in a braiding kind of fashion. And I've seen people do it really, really quickly, like, you know, when you plait with three pieces of something. I've seen people that can do this technique that fast, you know, just as quickly as you would plait your hair, which is pretty amazing to me. Okay, so over, bending the wire underneath, going out, back over here to the left. And also, guys, I know I've mentioned it once or twice before already, but I'm going to mention it again because there are a lot of people that are kind of just now joining us. Everything I'm doing here is doable with cord, okay? I'm just doing it with wire because I do everything with wire. That's just kind of my art form. But you can do this with cord, absolutely. So those of you who wanted to see this in cord, the steps are exactly the same, I promise you. Okay, let me look back here because I thought there was a question. Okay, so Jane says, when you say the left bead is on top of the wire, is it also under the wire? I'm talking about the first left bead. I have the rest of it. I'm so confused. Okay. I think I know what you mean. Okay, so see where the wire is running underneath these 2 core wires? See the placement of that? When I slide my left bead up, it's going to sit over the top of that wire. Is that what you mean? It's sitting, that wire is sitting underneath that bead that I just moved up. It's not going to stay there. It's going to move over once I kind of guide this wire over to the right, but that's where you need it to be sitting before you fold your wire over. I hope that I answered your question. Okay, so I fold the wire over, and now I'm going to go fold to the underneath and out. Okay, same thing, slide 2 beads up. Okay, fold your wire over, fold it to the underside and back out. Oh goodness, let's see. We'll definitely have to invest in a tying station. Okay, you guys, I can give you a link to the tying station when we're done here if you need a direct link to it. But yeah, it's a Beadalon product and I use this for everything. I love it so, so much. It's so cool because if you need your hands free, even if you're not doing knotting or something like this, but you need to attach two pieces of something so that you can work in the center, this thing it's worth every penny, and it's not expensive, which makes it doubly cool, right? All right, so I've got 2 beads up here, folding the wire over. We're almost done. I've only got 3 more sets of beads to go. We'll be done with this side. Okay, the right side is easy breezy. It's the left side. Let's see. Meant the first. Kathleen says Jane meant the first left bead. I'm so confused. This one right here, up here at the top, the wire is sitting underneath it. Yes, the folding wire. Does that make sense? I hope. I'm glad you guys have each other because a lot of times I'm very confused. Okay. Which is not a good thing. I hope that I'm not leaving you super confused. Leslie said I'd probably use the spongy thingies. I love that. That's a technical term, by the way, the spongy thingies that come with this for the wire. Yeah, that would probably help a little bit. They would definitely hold these wires in place. I just didn't think to grab that, but yeah, that would definitely help. And painter's tape, that would definitely help as well. All right, so folding over, coming over here to the underneath again. And I can see sometimes where even my folds are a little too tight. So I kind of readjust this, and it's easy to do that because it's wire. It's really forgiving, and the cording is really forgiving as well. Okay, so don't worry if you do get it pinched too tight, because you can always open it back up. Okay, same thing. Fold that wire over, take the wire underneath. Did I just see Yvette? I see Yvette here. She is. Everybody say hello to Yvette. You guys, Yvette is my boss at Beadalon. Say hello to Yvette. Love her so much. So much love. All right, these are my last 2 beads. Fold that wire, okay? And then fold it underneath and out this direction. Okay? Now we're just going to leave that. Just going to leave it like it is. Now, if you are using cord, it might be a little bit more tricky to just leave it laying there. That's why the wire part is super easy to use, because you can just leave it. It's going to stay in place until you pick it up to do something else with it. However, if you're using cord for this instead of wire, your beads obviously are going to want to slip downwards. So I would take your, you know, the little springy things, bead stoppers. I would attach bead stoppers on either end here just to hold your beads in place while you do the right-handed piece of cord. But with the wire, we don't have to worry about that. Okay, so now we're going to come back up here to the top, right? And we have the right-handed piece of wire, and we need to work it all the way down. And it's so much easier this time because our beads are already in the place that we want them. All I have to do is just lay this wire in its spot. So I'm going to take the right-handed wire and I'm going to lay it right between the first 2 beads, right? So I'm coming to the left, okay? And I'm going to do the exact same thing. I'm going to fold it underneath all of the beads and the wire, right? That first one never looks super good. It's okay because you can really adjust it in the beginning, or at the end, I'm sorry. Okay, once we get this off of here, you can adjust that first fold of wire to make it look a little bit better. It's a little wonky at first. Okay, but we're just going to follow the same pattern. We're just folding the wire and placing it in between. So we're going to have these kind of V shapes with our wire, okay? Fold it underneath, back out to the right-handed side, okay? Lay it in between the next 2 beads in that diagonal way, okay? Fold it underneath, back out to the right, across, fold underneath, oops, to the right, across the top, underneath, to the right, straighten your wire out as you go. Okay. Just filling in those spaces with our wire at this point. Underneath. Okay. And you can see this side goes so much faster. Back out. Across. Back out. Across. Back out. Okay. We're almost to the end. And you guys, I had 36 inches of wire. I've got very little wire left to work with, and we still need to do 4 square knots. And you can come in and readjust if you need to. Okay. And then we've got 1 more to go right there. And then back out. Oh wait, sorry, I put that in the wrong place. And then back out. All right, now we've made it all the way down the bracelet, right? Now we need to use our 2 ends to do some square knotting. And unfortunately, I have very little wire left on one side. That's just kind of the nature of how it works. But yeah, so I'm going to say 36 inches, 24 inches is not going to cut it. You're going to need every bit of 36 inches of the artistic wire for this. And I would even go as far to say as maybe bump that up from 36 to 40 inches just to be on the safe side. I've got enough here to do some knotting, but for those of you who are new at knotting with wire, you definitely want to have a little bit more to work with just so that you feel like you're not working in a little teeny tiny space, okay? Okay, so we want to finish this off the exact same way that we started it. So we're going to finish it off with some square knots. And I don't think I'm going to be able to get all, let me slide all this up a little bit. I don't know if I'm going to be able to get 4 or not, to be honest with you. I'm definitely a little short on the wire, but that's all right. So I'm just starting out just like we did. Square knot, just get that first step. First step is always the trickiest. Okay, that was the right. Now we're going to do the left. Okay, and pull. And if you find that when you are getting short on wire, you can always come in here with your tools. Come in with your chain nose pliers to grab that wire. Oh golly. Don't pull it that tight. Don't knock it off the table. But it does help, right, to get yourself a little bit more leverage to pull those knots tight when your pieces are short. Okay. All right. Let's see how many I can get. I don't think I'm going to be able to get all those, but give it a shot. Okay. Getting a little short here. And it is looking a little wonky, but I can really clean all this up, right? That's the cool part about the wire, is that you can absolutely clean it all up. Okay. Cutting it really close here. Yeah, it would help if I had more wire for sure. Like I said, I had 36 inches to start with here. I feel like 40 would probably have given me just a little bit more to work with as far as the knots down here. Whoa! And that's the second time. That time I didn't knock the light in the floor, but I did knock it out of the way. It's all right. It's my stuff. It's okay. Okay, I don't know if I can get one more. I think I probably can. I don't know. I kind of hate to push it. Should I try for it? Should I not? I will. I might as well. I've already knocked some other things in the floor. So at this point, does it really matter? But yeah, a little bit more wire would have definitely been beneficial here. Okay, but that's the good part about the Facebook Live, is that you get to see me make the mistake, unless you're working with me, right? And at this point, you're probably using your sentence enhancers and really fussing at me for leaving you with such a short amount of wire. But all right, so we've got our 4 knots. The last 4 here are not nearly as pretty as our first 4, but if I had had a little bit more length to work with, I probably could have gotten these to look really, really pretty. But the truth is that once you get this finished, you're not really going to notice this part anyway, so it doesn't really make that big of a difference. Okay, so now what I want to do is I want to take this off of the tying station, because clearly we need to be able to work without knocking things in the floor. Okay, so this is what we have, right? And we can make some adjustments. If we need to pull everything and straighten everything up, you can grab these core wires and then use your fingers to kind of push the artistic wire and the beads into place. And you can kind of push and pull from either end, right? To get everything looking exactly the way you want it to. This very first wrap that I made, that I didn't like the way that it laid at first, I can come in here and put it where I want it to go. I can use my pliers to straighten the wire out. So at this point, you just really kind of want to go through and make your little adjustments as far as making everything look the way you want it to look. Okay, now what we want to do is we want to, now notice we don't have any artistic wire extra pieces up here, right? Because that's where we started our knots. But we do down here, we have these 2 rogue pieces. And so to get rid of our 2 rogue pieces, I just want to take one of them. I'm going to do one at a time, and I'm just going to wrap around our core wires about 2 times, okay? Just wrapping around both of them at the end of the knot, the last knot that we made, and then I'm going to come in and trim off. Okay? If you were using cord here, you would do a 1/2 hitch knot over your core wires. Okay? Now I'm going to take the other side of the wire. I'm going to do the same thing, just wrap around twice. And I even wrapped over the wraps that I already made. Okay? Come in with my cutter tool, trim that off. And again, if it was cord, you just do a 1/2 hitch knot with that side and then trim off the tail, okay? Now, I only want 1 wire up here to work with, right? I've got 2, I only need 1. And I'm gonna do a wrapped loop here. There are a million different ways you can finish this off, okay? You don't have to follow my exact steps here. You could just do a simple knot and call it, or I mean a simple loop and call it a day and trim off your tails. But I am going to do a wrapped loop here. So the first thing I want to do is I want to take my shorter piece of wire, if you've got a shorter one. If you don't have a shorter one and they're the same size, just pick one of them, okay, and wrap it around the core wire, or the one that you're going to leave, about once or twice, just sort of like what we did on the other end, right? And then cut it off. That's really the joy of using wire instead of cord. You just wrap it around and cut it off and it's done. Now we have our single strand of wire here, or our single piece, and we're going to come in and do a wrapped loop. So I'm just going to grab the tail end of that wire right up against the wraps that I made with my chain nose pliers. I'm going to bend the wire. When I take those chain nose pliers away, you can see there's that tiny little space there. That's where we want to put our round nose pliers. So coming in with the round nose pliers, I'm going to go up and over the top barrel of the pliers, roll those out of the way so I can take the wire on over to the other side. And then I'm just going to wire wrap and meet up with the last wraps that I just made, right? And then I'm just going to trim this off. And we're done, right? With that end. That end is finished. All we need now is just hardware. Okay, now we want to do the exact same thing over here on the other end. So, excuse me, one of the wires, I'm going to trim some of this off because it's a little excessive. Gonna take one, wrap it around once or twice, trim it off. Okay. Now I'm just gonna do a wrapped loop, just following the same steps. And same thing, just wrapping around. Okay, and then we want to trim off. Now, you can, at this point, put whatever kind of hardware you want on this. The first thing we're going to do is we're going to shape this into a bracelet, right? And because it's wire, all we have to do is just kind of bend it into the shape that we want. We don't need a mandrel. We don't need a special tool. We all know what a bracelet shape looks like, and this stuff is just easy peasy, gonna squeeze right into shape. Done. Boom. Bracelet. However, it is a little bit on the loose side, so I wouldn't wear this as just a bangle. I'm afraid it is kind of bendy, so it will probably come off. So you do need some hardware here. And my friend Ginger was asking if you could attach a magnetic clasp here. You absolutely can. You can use whatever you want. You can do jump rings and just a lobster clasp. You can do any number of things, okay? I did on this one, I just used some of my extra 20 gauge wire to create just a little shepherd's hook. You don't have to do that if you don't want to, but you absolutely can. I'll show that to you really, really quickly. It's not my favorite clasp in the whole world, and there are a million different ways to do this. This was just really quick and easy that I just did kind of on the fly. So using my favorite tool on the planet ever is the stepped bell making pliers. Love these so much. And I'm going to use another piece of 20 gauge wire, just a scrap piece that I had on hand. Okay, and you do want to work harden this a bit as well. I'm not going to because I don't have my block sitting here, but I am just going to show you kind of the steps. So this is very similar to the ear wires that I make with my stepped bell making pliers. It's pretty much the same concept. So I'm grabbing the wire right at the end, and you can use either one of these ends here, and all you want to do is just turn a loop. Okay. Now, instead of, when we make an ear wire, we place it, let's see, no, it is opposite, right? Yeah, so place it into the stepped bell making pliers or the large bell making pliers if you don't have these guys, okay? You just want to use the largest mandrel, and you can see the direction that my loop is facing, okay? It's facing down. And then I'm going to come and bend. Actually, I did that backwards. Just kidding. I want the loop to face upwards. I'm sorry. Do I? No. How did I do this last time? Oh my goodness, you guys. My brain has just completely shut off. I do want my loop to be facing downwards. I'm sorry. Okay. So we've got kind of this shape. I remember now. So we're making, it looks just like an ear wire at this point, right? I forgot, I have to trim off some of this, but I would need another loop down here. So I'm going to place the wire back into the tool. Okay. And now I'm going to use these little guys to go the other direction. Just like that. Okay. Now, I'm just going to come in with my cutters, trim off. Don't cut off too much because you still want to have a full loop here. You want to be sure that it's nice and closed. I forgot. This is where I struggled because I didn't use any jump rings, and so my little decorative loop on the end of my shepherd's hook wouldn't clear the loops here, my wrapped loops. So I trimmed some of mine off. That's what I'm going to do here as well. So I'm just going to come in with the cutter tool and trim some of that off. Okay, and if you need to file it right there, you absolutely can. You can use your wire rounder tip if you need to, but you just want to be sure that it will clear the loops if you're not going to use any jump rings there, right? And now at this point, I absolutely would put this on the block and I would work harden this just because I really, really want this to keep its shape. You don't want this to pull out and fall apart on you, okay? But to attach it, you would just do it just like you would any other loop, just by opening it laterally with your pliers, hooking it to one of the wrapped loops here on the end and close it back. And then you've got yourself a little clasp. Okay. If you don't want your clasp to sit that direction, you can take your pliers, grab your loops, and turn your loops here on the ends this direction. Okay, that's really going to kind of help your clasp sit the direction that you want it to, so it's not actually going to scrape up against your arm. But you don't have to do it that way, guys. You can just use a standard lobster clasp, right? I just used scraps because that's what I had, and that's what I did with the original. Just using some scrap wire. You don't have to go that extra step if you don't want to. I mean, there are beautiful clasps that are available that would look amazing on this. So, you know, you don't have to do every little piece of it handmade. But there you go. And you guys, I'm telling you, you can absolutely 110% achieve this. You can do this. You guys asked to see this bracelet. You can make this bracelet. It doesn't matter what size your beads are. It doesn't matter if they are oval shaped or if they are round. You can do this with seed beads, and it doesn't have to be hard wire. You don't have to use a combination of German style and artistic wire to achieve this. You can do this with hemp and some Chinese knotting cord. You can do this with rat tail. You can do a wire core and use cording to wrap through. So you can do a combination of either one, right? It's really kind of up to you to play around with it and figure out how it is that you want yours to look. But the steps as far as using cord instead of wire are pretty much exactly the same. So if you need to refer back to this and you're going to use cord, just remember where I've told you to make knots, like the half hitch knots, instead of wrapping the wire around. That's really going to be the only difference. And of course, the way you finish it is going to be a little bit different as well. So with the tying station, if I were going to use the tying station, instead of just laying my 2 pieces of wire into the tying station, I would do a loop, right? I would take all of my strands, all my cords, do a little loop, tie a knot, put your loop over the peg here, and then all you're left with on the end is your ends where you can tie those up. You can add a button clasp. You can do a million different things. So I hope that I hope I've answered the call for you guys. Robin says, what size wrist does this fit? This is going to be a 7.5-inch bracelet. And that's a good question, which it kind of brings me to a point that I already made once earlier, but I will say it again because, again, we have people who joined us a little bit late. But if you need to adjust the bracelet as far as length is concerned, my opinion on that is leave the amount of beads and adjust your length in your knots that you start with, right? So we started, this one's got 5 knots, this one has 4 knots. If I needed it to be a little bit bigger of a bracelet, I would give it maybe 6 or 7 knots. Or if you don't want to do that, then increase your length with the size of your clasp, add extra jump rings. I wouldn't adjust it as far as the beads are concerned, because it will look like it's going to be a certain size, and when you get done with it, it's not. It's really kind of an illusion when you're looking at it as you're working with it. So I would stick with 24 to 26 on the number of beads if you're going to use 8 millimeters, and make your adjustments as far as size elsewhere. And somebody said, are these going to fit? Yeah, they're going to fit. And in fact, they're going to be a little bit big on me because I wear really small bracelets. I have really, really tiny wrists. So this is going to be more loose on me than I prefer. But yeah, so that's going to be about a 7.5-inch bracelet, and I use 24 of the 8 millimeter Czech Glass beads for this. So there you go. All right, guys, I'm going to turn you around. We'll say our goodbyes for the day. All right. Hi. How are you? So I've knocked a whole bunch of things on the floor today. Made a big old mess that I have to go clean up here in just a second. My microphone is all bent over. I don't know how you guys are able to hear me. I hate this microphone. One of these days, I'm going to get a good one. I've got one of those puffball microphones that I use, but I don't know how it would do with a Facebook Live. I'd have to stand here and hold it, or sit here rather. All right, Tina says she can't wait to try it. I can't wait for you to try it either. I know that you guys are going to rock this one. You totally are. It's much easier, I think, than you think it is when you see them. I've seen this this exact project made in like big wrap bracelets, really, really long. I love that look. Kind of break it up with maybe a, you know, a charm that's got 2 loops on it to go in the middle. But you guys are you're gonna nail this one. I know you are. You're gonna be creating some really beautiful styles, and you can mix it up, right? That's what's so cool, is that you can mix up the beads, you can mix up the shapes and the sizes and the cord and the wire to get completely different looks from the same technique. And I love that, trying to take it off. All right, you guys, that is it for me, at least right here. Right? At least right here. You can catch me again today at 4 p.m. over on Jewel Loom. I will be with Jules. We are finishing off a bracelet on the small goddess loom. I'm going to show you guys how to do that. Actually, we're both going to show you. I'm a lot of times I am the moral support, because Jules is such a genius, right? I'm just there to like say, yay, you're doing an awesome job, because I learn something from her every single time we do a Facebook Live. Like, I look forward to it because it's like class for me, right? I get to hang out with her and watch her make the most amazing things ever. So come join us on the Jewel Loom Facebook page at 4 p.m. And you guys, if you are interested in the tying station, if you're interested in the Czech Glass Beads, I will pop some links on my page for you guys so that you can follow those. I'll pop in affiliate links. You guys, I make a small commission off of those. You do not have to use those if you don't want to, but if you do, I do make a very small amount of money off of those, and it is very much appreciated. It allows me to continue to do projects for you guys and buy the materials that I need to supply us with our fun on Fridays, right? I will put my link in, Jane. You got it. I'll put it, I will post it here in just a second as soon as I'm done here. All right, guys, have a great afternoon. I'll see some of you later. If not, you can catch me on Monday at 7 p.m. for Maker Monday on the Jessie James Beads Facebook page. If not, same time, same place, right here next week with another fun project. Keep those ideas coming to me. Let me know what you guys want to see. I am happy to oblige. So, bye, guys. Have a great afternoon.